everyone! My name's Dave, and if 2020 was a pretty shitty year for YouTube, but some awesome apps came out along the way, you can call me Daveypoo, the mobile music minstrel. Welcome to 2021. Now, I know it's been a little bit of a bumpy ride so far, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about positive things. Let's talk about the best things that came out in 2020. So, here's how I'm going to do this list. I've got a couple of leftovers from 2019 that I forgot to mention. I've got top 5 from 2020, and I kept it to 5 because I wanted to keep this kind of short and succinct. These are the 5 apps that I grabbed the most, that resonated most with me, that just entered straight into my workflow. And then I've got a bunch that are special mentions that I thought were really, really cool, and I wanted to mention them, but they didn't make it into my top 5. Now, why am I doing this so late? 2020 already happened. Well, in 2019, I did my best of list, and I filmed it, and then at the end of the year, there were still a couple of apps that came out that I wanted to include in my list, but they hadn't come out by the time I filmed it. Jakob Hack did his best of 2019 video, and he mentioned, like, hey, I waited until after the first of the year because I wanted to make sure all the apps came out. And I thought, well, that makes the most sense. So I'm taking a tip from Jakob, and I'm doing mine late because I wanted to make sure I got everything that came out in the whole year because there were some pretty awesome apps that came out. Here on the first page are my 2019 leftovers. These are the 2 amazing apps that came out after I did my 2019 list that would have been on it had I waited to film it. Jazz Drummer by Louis Martinez is just excellent. Louis Martinez's apps are great. If you're familiar with Lumbeat at all, you know, they're the only apps that I have played with that sound even mildly like an actual drummer. Now he's got improved functionality with this stuff where he's got, you can export the MIDI, you can export the audio as separate individual tracks. He's got switchable drummers. You can choose different styles of drumming. It's great, and I think Jazz Drummer, for me, of all of his apps, has the best sounding drum kits, or at least for the styles of music that I play. I love this app. I think it's great. Well done, Louis Martinez. The second leftover is Hammond B3X. This was gifted to me Christmas 2019, and it was one of the best gifts I got, and this app is incredible. Now, this app is expensive. It's $80, $90 US, something like that, and that is pretty daunting. But if you're a Hammond organ enthusiast or a Hammond organist, this is as close as you're going to get to real life, certainly on an iPad. I would love to do a head-to-head with this against like the Nord or the Hammond XK2. I think it would hold its own. And certainly if you pumped this through an actual Leslie, I think it would be indistinguishable from anything else. But I loved this app. I wanted to make sure that I mentioned it because even though it is expensive, and you know, I too, when it first came out, went at the price. But I was very lucky. So if you are also very lucky, get your hands on that one. So let's go to the top 5 of 2020. Now, this is in no particular order, and these are just the apps that resonated with me most. Not necessarily the ones that I like are the greatest apps ever created, but just the ones that I dug. All right, here we go. First thing that came out, Drambo. I gotta talk about Drambo. Everybody's gonna put this on their list. Drambo is so exciting to me and super intimidating. I designed some synths with it up front. I made some music with it up front. And then, of course, I got sidetracked by a million other things and reviews and other stuff I had to do. And I haven't really gotten back to it. But the amount of control in here is astounding. And let's compare this to MyRack. MyRack is a Euro rack for iPad, and it's great, but it's super, super hardcore. Drambo kind of rides the line a little bit, and it makes things a little easier to the uninitiated. Still gives you all of the individual modules and the power of something like MyRack, but it makes it in a self-enclosed package that's a little more palatable for simpletons like myself. The amount of ability that this thing has is just ridiculous. Go watch my videos on Drambo. I've got Drambo Bites to show you how to get up and running with this thing. There are a million other videos that'll go way into depth with Drambo. It can do anything. It can be a synthesizer, it can be a drum machine, it can be a groove box, it can be all of those things at the same time. It's just thoroughly amazing, and it is probably one of the greatest things that's come out for iPad. Even if I don't use it all that much, it's super duper impressive and had to be mentioned. FAC Phaser. I love Fred's apps. Fred Anton Corvest, FAC Chorus is probably the thing I grab most, but that has been surpassed by FAC Phaser. This thing just sounds mint. I'm going to skip ahead to another app so that I can show off FAC Phaser. One of my other inclusions on here is Electric Vintage by Apesoft. The Electric Vintage and Accordion. I lumped them together because it came out right near each other, and they're both Romplers. Electric Vintage is a Fender Rhodes model, okay, with samples of a Fender Rhodes. Here, I'm going to turn off the reverb in here, okay, and Accordion is an accordion. You know, it's pretty straightforward. Let's hear how they sound just by themselves here. So let's hear Electric Vintage. I did a whole review of this, so please go check it out if you want to hear more. But the reason I like this one, firstly, is that this sounds a lot more like the Rhodes I actually owned. There's that nostalgia factor there, which is not something that, you know, that's intangible. That's just for me, not for anybody else. But I love how robust this section is. Slicer, chorus, wah, phaser, delay, reverb, distortion. This has so much customizability in here. You can make this thing sound nothing like an electric piano and really push it beyond just playing like you're in the 1970s. Accordion gave me so much joy, it's not even funny. Just, you know, having this just made me happy as hell. But then, you know, I also did a video on that, and, you know, try running that through a heavy metal guitar amplifier and see what you get. It's really, really amazing. So, but I wanted to go jump back to FAC Phaser here. I wanted to show you that app. So now that we've heard, now let's hear that through FAC. I mean, I can't, that is the smallest little bit of what makes this app so good. There's so many, it's so controllable and so customizable, and I've been able to milk out of this all of the different phasers that I've heard over the years. I can get those sounds out of this. It's excellent. Fantastic app. Drum Computer by Sugar Bites. Holy crap. This thing is just dumb. Again, did a whole video on this, and the Make Kit button is the jam. I could just sit here and make kits all day and do the shoulder wiggle all day just for you. Anyway, I have told you before, I won't do anything with these knobs. I will just hit that Make Kit button and use this excellent sequencer, and that's enough for me. This thing is fantastic. I usually don't use drum synthesizers because I can't make snappy, tight, funky sounds out of it that I like, and this thing just does all the work for me. Drum Computer by Sugar Bites. Incredible. And lastly, my top 5, you see, I've actually got 7 up here. The reason I have 7 is because I include Electric Vintage and Accordion, sort of, I lump them together. They came out right around the same time, and they have the same sort of architecture behind them. And the last 2 I lump into the same category also, Nembrini's Delay 3000 and PSA 1000. PSA 1000 is a preamp, and it's just incredible. I mean, the buzz, punch, crunch, and drive all distort various different frequency ranges, and it's really spectacular. Let me take Electric Vintage here, and I'm going to run it through PSA just for a minute here, so you can hear what this thing is capable of. Then, you ready? It's got a Hass effect built in. I mean, it's just great. And then, if you run, you know, you've got Delay 3000, which is modeled after and both of these are modeled after well-known gear. I don't have them on the top of my head. I'll probably put a note on the screen. But the reason I like Delay 3000 so much is that the ducking, okay? This thing is great. So it turns off the delays while you're playing. So you can hear the delays now, but listen. and it brings the level back up. That is worth the price of admission right there. But it's got a filter built in, it's got modulator built in, it's got saturation built into the delay, so it saturates just the delays. Let's do this. That's nasty. I love it. So those are my favorite apps of 2020. Okay, Drambo, FSC Phaser, Drum Computer, Delay 3000 and PSA 1000, Electric Vintage, and Accordion. Now, there were a few that I thought needed a special mention because they were just so awesome that I wanted to make sure that they were talked about, even if I don't grab for them all the time. First of all, we've got tone boosters, Realbus, and Morphit. Specifically, Realbus has all of the tape effects that I've loved from things like DAW Cassette and Callum's, Calum's Tape Audio Pro, or whatever it's called. Of all the tape saturator apps, I like Realbus the best. And mainly because it offers so much deep functionality. Like, you've got drive and flange and echo. It just goes beyond. There are tape flangers and there are tape echoes, but this just builds all of it into one unit and is like, here's your tape desk. It's fantastic. I love it. Morphit, the ability to correct the EQ curve for these specifically, the MDR 7506s that I'm wearing right here. These tend to have a lot of high end and can be real crispy. So to be able to compensate for that, worth its weight in gold. I want to mention Agonizer by Kairos and by my buddy Sweetie Pie. You know who you are. Yakopak. Oh, why am I not hearing? Oh, because I'm not coming out. So I had a blast with this thing. You know, I normally am a Moog guy. When I want to do bass patches, I grab my Moog, and then I design a patch, and then I run it through my Model D, Behringer Model D. But this thing was able to come up with some excellent like big, nasty, gritty, melt your face kind of. Right? It's just great. The only reason I haven't grabbed for this one lately is I just haven't had the application, but I'm holding that in reserve for there's going to be a tune, and I'm going to use that on. I just haven't gotten there yet. Okay, that's Agonizer. Ting and Shaka. I wanted to mention both of these. These came out by Clevgran this year, and I think they're really interesting. Ting is percussion, but it's non-traditional percussion. It's, sofa slap, stick on edge. But they're really interesting sounds, and they're really well sampled. The reason I'm hitting the same sample is you can hear it's multi-sampled. Really, really well done. Really interesting app. Got built-in reverb, some tone controls. I really like that they're offering something different. And then with Shaka is the first shaker-specific percussion module that I've seen, with customizable patterns and different instruments. Again, multi-sampled, really interesting. Shakers are a really hard thing to emulate, and this was invaluable to me. Shaka and Ting, both very interesting percussion apps. Thanks, Clevgran. Those are great. Spring and Shimmerverb by Eventide. Now, why these ones specifically? Well, I love their Spring reverb algorithm, and I like that you can choose between a large tank, a small tank, that you can have 1, 2, or 3 springs. I like using this with guitar a lot. I think it just sounds excellent. It sounds like a spring reverb tank, and I've needed that in my arsenal for a while. I like the customizability of it. Spring reverb, great. And then Shimmerverb, of all the shimmer reverbs that I have, Eventide's is my favorite. So Eventide gets an extra thumbs up for shimmer verb. I just love it. Go watch my video on it. It's great. The last thing I want to talk about this year is one of these apps came out in 2019, I believe, and the other two came out in 2020. And I think they're super useful tools. They are TubeAU, WebAU, and Radio Unit AU. They're developed by different people. TubeAU is a Blue Mango. WebAU is Christian somebody. I'll put his name up on the screen. I don't have it on the top of my head. And Radio Unit is Beep Street, who made Drambo. TubeAU is YouTube in an audio unit. So useful if you're trying to learn something, figure out how something works. You can have the video up in the DAW that you're working in and have the synth right there. Super invaluable tool. You can sample stuff, all sorts of stuff. WebAU, same thing. Web browser in an audio unit. So again, read the manual in the same platform that you are working in. And lastly, Radio Unit. This is internet radio stations in an AU. All three of these are super, super useful tools. You can create all sorts of different, musics with it. You can go all sorts of different directions. And I just thought that they were really spectacular that we finally have these things in an audio unit format. So that is my lengthy going through the best apps of 2020. I know 2020 sucked for a lot of people, and it sucked for me too. But 2021, we're going to have some great apps and some great music because of it all. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want to know more. Click the bell if you want notifications. Check me out on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. I'm on all of those places. You can support the channel on Patreon if you like this and want me to do more of this sort of thing. Thank you to all of these amazing developers for all of the stuff that you gave us in 2020 to keep us safe. I know 2021 has gotten off to a rough start, especially here in the States. Please, everybody, keep your heads on. Stay safe. We're going to get through this all, and we're going to have a better 2021. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Later.